and welcome back. Now that we are done with our Ramayana series, let's continue to talk about more books and explore more stories. So, last week when I was writing the newsletter, and in case you don't follow the newsletter, I would suggest you can do that on Substack. The URL is kalampedia.substack.com. I'll put it in the description also. So in the newsletter, when I was talking about different books that you can read on monsoon, the first book that came up in the discussion and the book that comes up in every discussion when it comes to monsoon is the book by Alexander Frater. It's called Chasing the Monsoon. It's a wonderful book and I would suggest you to read it because this is one book if you want to understand the emotion, the experience of monsoon rains in India and how it feels to be traveling from one part of India to another during this monsoon season. And to know more about the people through this weather and the changes in weather. That's absolutely a perfect book to read. And while we are talking about this book, what I'll do today is I'm going to narrate a few passages from this particular book, and I hope you'll enjoy it. So the chapter that I'm going to narrate here is the second one, where the author has just finished his traveling in different parts of Asia, in Pakistan, in China. He's in London. And he's planning to travel to India and he's just trying to figure out how to go about it. And he's also trying to understand how monsoon works, what happens during that period. So it's quite interesting. It gives you the introduction about the whole journey and the season, of course. So without any delay, let me start narrating the chapter 2. It was odd to be taking an interest in the weather again. Some dormant cell seemed to have woken and fired up a whole constellation of others which began rising above the mind's horizon with a soft, nacreous glow. My reading, though, soon revealed certain disturbing behavioral changes in the monsoon. During the past 2 or 3 years, it had grown capricious and spiteful. Some areas of India were paid only fleeting visits, some no visits at all. This willfulness puzzled the weathermen and frightened the politicians. A failed monsoon could mean riots and lost elections. But most of all, it frightened the ordinary rural people whose crops and lives depended on it. They, long accustomed to its ancient rhythms and sturdy reliability, found its absence as shocking as perhaps a death or madness in the family. There were early indications, said the London papers, that it would be temperamental this year too. Further research revealed the kind of panic measures taken when it didn't show up. The previous year, in Bangalore for example, the city fathers paid a yogi to pray for rain. Seated on a tiger skin rug beside the Bangalore water supply and sewerage board guest house, the yogi chanted for 2 hours and 4 minutes while his supporters chewed leaves and swallowed burning camphor. Afterwards, he was able to inform senior water board officials, while prostrated before him with offering of coconuts, that the rain god Varuna, though invisible to the naked eye, now approached them like waves of clouds. The rain fell all right and torrentially, but only over neighboring Cochin. When the Bangalore city fathers complained the yogi, and asked the reason, the yogi reminded them sharply who they were dealing with. Not only was he renowned for his ability to divert cyclones, but he had also been retained by the government as official blesser of their space program. After India's first rocket crashed, they choppered him to the launch pad of the second, which, thanks to his vigorous intercessions, soared aloft without any trouble at all. So saying, he picked up his fee and drove away, leaving the city fathers many rupees poorer. It was a sad story, but a commonplace one. I fretted over the monsoon in the airy Aldwych office of an attaché at the Indian High Commission office. I told him further research also revealed that drinking the milk of a white cow might bless my venture. What did he think of that? He said, "It is probably the most realistic course of action I can recommend." Will they let me into Cherrapunji? He laughed. Your request is with our people in Delhi now. As you know, I'm afraid the auguries are not very good. I decided to go to India late one night after mulling over the known facts and tossing a coin. So, 13 days before the official onset of the rains over Bombay, my 747 descended through a drained, empty sky, which had taken on the color and shine of an oiled teak. It was only 7 a.m., yet an engorged sun had already seen off any lingering nocturnal clouds, probably in puffs of steam, and made the air glassy. The Bombay earth seemed to smoulder. Countless small suburban fires hinting mysteriously at spontaneous combustion deep underground made dusty brown smoke, which darkened and thickened the smoke from the city. Into this soiled atmosphere we drifted, wheels down, flaps extended, licked and bumped by sinewy tongues of heat turbulence. On the ground, the stinging light caused us to disembark, squinting like lizards. I felt deeply pessimistic. During the flight, I discussed the monsoon's progress with several Indian passengers, each of whom offered a revised arrival date. These were based on privileged information from well-placed sources, and each was different. 7 states still suffered from acute water shortages. Some places had not had rain in 4 years, while countless thousand Indians continued urgently and immediately praying for early onset of monsoon. In Kerala, where I would travel the following day, tankers were supplying potable water to 12,500 assembly points as engineers installed 11,216 street hydrants. More than 500 tube wells and 400 bore wells had been sunk throughout the state, but still the poor went thirsty. In parts of Andhra Pradesh, water was being distributed only once on alternate days. Reservoirs sprayed with aceto emulsion to reduce evaporation dwindled anyway as they were drunk dry. In Madras, each one of the 180,000 families living in the Slum Clearance Board tenements was given a free plastic bucket, but little to put in it. Local train services suffered disruption when water-starved residents carrying empty pots squatted on the tracks. In Rajkot, though, trains were commandeered to haul water to the city, where enterprising local officials using tractors and tank-mounted rickshaws pioneered a home delivery service. In Palghat, a gastroenteritis epidemic caused by water scarcity had claimed 22 lives. Wells were chlorinated and soft drink sales banned. The excise commissioner closed the toddy shops. The taxi taking me to town was an ancient rust edifice held together with membranous layers of paint. They had been thickly applied by a brush. You could see the marks. And I imagined a deep pothole suddenly rendering it down into a pile of flaky red dust. The road, its tar surface sludgy in the sun, took us past shanty towns where everyone seemed weighed down by invisible burdens. Even the beggars who worked the traffic lights, normally as agile and intrusive as monkeys, merely sauntered towards us. The fan in my hotel room turned with the stolid thump and creak of a butter churn. I tried to phone the Bombay Met Office but kept getting a monosyllabic Hindi speaking woman who, after the third or fourth time, adopted the strident tones of someone addressing a mass rally. I turned to the hotel switchboard for help and learned the MET office had a new number. Nobody answered that at all. I was calling an empty building and wondered whether, with nothing much to forecast, they had all gone home. The girl at the hotel switchboard said yes, of course they'd all gone home. Today was a government holiday. She had a nice, intimate contralto voice and more to keep her talking than anything else. I told her I was trying to find the whereabouts of the monsoon. She said, "Sir, it is in the South Andaman Sea." Above the bed hung a framed print of an alpine peak. Age had darkened the snow and warped the ice. "What did you say?" "They announced it on the radio this morning, also in the paper. It is still very small and running late, but definitely advancing. Do not fear, sir. Monsoon is on its way." I told her she had the most beautiful voice in India, heard her startled laugh, then rushed to the door. For the first time in months, I had handed small change to a news vendor without preparing for the transaction in advance. Standing beneath a brilliantly garlanded flame of the forest tree, I opened up the Indian Express and there it was, headed Weather Special Bulletin. Southwest monsoon is advancing over South Andaman Sea and adjoining Southeast Bay as feeble current. The normal date of onset of the monsoon over the Andaman Sea is May 20. This year, the onset over Andaman is lagging behind by a week. I returned to my room and dialed the Baptistas. A friendly sounding man said they were spending a few days in Delhi but gave me a number where they could be reached. All I got was silence, faintly penetrated by a mysterious susurration like air flowing over swallows' wings, the sound of countless distant whispering voices. In reality, they were all probably yelling for the operator. And eventually an operator told me the Delhi number was out of order. When I put the phone down, it rang again at once. The switchboard girl said, "Sir, have you seen the afternoon dispatch and courier? It has monsoon article in Round and About by Busy Bee. I'm sending boy up with it now." She was gone before I could thank her. Like a gift, the cutting came in, inscribed in spacious lowland with the words, "Every good wish from Miss Geeta Contractor." I sat down and began reading Busy Bee's breezy 500-word piece, which, after welcoming the signs of activity in the South Andaman Sea, reflected, "It is comforting knowledge, comforting because it means that soon the torrid heat will dissolve in the cool waters of the rains, as the monsoon continues to advance and finally reaches our octroi nakas. What did that mean? I called Miss Contractor to find out, but a brisk, matronly voice advised that she had just completed the early shift and left. Was there a message? I said no and returned to Busy Bee's text. Once the monsoon advances into India, it moves at great speed, causing large depressions, air pockets, raising storms, overrunning the last of the mango crop. I've always been fascinated about the early monsoon bulletins. One morning it is at Kovalam Beach, touching Trivandrum. By midnight it has moved many miles northwards over the green coastal plains of Kerala. The next day it is in Cochin, blowing through the Chinese fishing nets. First the wind bending the palm trees to its will, and then the rains. I have in the past chalked out their military advances along the coast. But the monsoon does not tarry. It gathers the clouds along the way, and then one early morning they burst over Bombay. Early next morning I would fly south to Trivandrum and at Kovalam Beach find a room from which to witness its arrival. I slept fitfully, haunted by dreams of hot skies and a bright flat sea. From across the horizon came a muted gong beat, followed by Miss Contractor's voice speaking in the tones of an airport announcer. We regret to announce that your monsoon has been cancelled due to operational difficulties. You are entitled to voucher for complimentary refreshment while we await another. I'm sending boy up with it now. Heading down the Western Ghats, a 600-mile-long mountain range rearing out of the Arabian Sea, the Indian Airlines A300 Airbus passed through so many turbulent areas that the seatbelt sign, flashing on and off, seemed to be sending coded messages. Optimistically, I took this to mean bad weather coming from the sea, but a stewardess said it was due to heat coming off the land. I can read the bumps, she assured me. It was cool in the cabin, but glimpses of sun and shimmering red earth seemed to induce intense thirst in everyone with access to a window. Fingers were clicked and flight attendants sent scurrying for cups of tepid water. Somewhere around here, I reflected, Aloysius Baptista had made his record-breaking glider ascent. The bonny, reserved young man in the neighboring seat suddenly offered me a tiny sachet of a cologne-scented paper. For the face, he said earnestly, it will make you feel very nice. He told me he worked in Dubai maintaining air conditioners and was heading home for 2 months' leave. I'm coming home for the Eid moon, the end of Ramadan fasting, and the monsoon. After 2 years in the desert, I dream of it. I hear it's on its way, I said. He smiled, exposing red gums and small, bitten-down teeth. Oh yes, my mother has seen the pied-crested cuckoos. They're flying in from Africa just ahead of the rains. When they come, the monsoon comes. He hesitated. Also, I'm getting married. There will be girls at the airport. In this plane are many Kerala men like me working in the Middle East, and the girls will be there with their daddies to see what we bring. He cleared his throat and counted on his fingers. I'm bringing one Hitachi television, one full-color video recorder, one AIVA stereo system with graphic equalizer, one Bendix spin dryer. I stared at him. Who is the girl you're going to marry? I'm not knowing yet, he said. but she'll be waiting at the airport. As we approached Trivandrum, a flight attendant announced an outside air temperature of 39 degrees Celsius. The aircraft coasted in over wide, muddy lagoons and an unending prospect of coconut palms. My neighbor swallowed and licked his lips. He said his heart was going boom boom. Pandemonium reigned in the small terminal. A viewing balcony above the customs hall was packed with wide eyed girls and their somber, watchful parents. This seemed as much of a seasonal phenomenon as the arrival of the pied crested cuckoos, and jostling spectators peered through windows and clung to vantage points. The young men swaggered about. They hauled huge bales of merchandise off the baggage carousel and, constantly glancing upwards, summoned porters with rupee notes peeled off thick wads which they flourished aloft. I lost my friend in the melee. I do not know how he fared, but when I left the terminal in a taxi, all the girls remained on the viewing balcony, staring down at their prospective husbands like bidders at a bloodstock sale. I asked the driver to take me to Kovalam Beach. Always in the latter part of May, attention starts to focus on Trivandrum, a sprawling, rackety, good-natured tropical city on the Malabar coast. Its people are dark-skinned and notoriously pro-communist. They are also loquacious, independent, and always ready to engage strangers in coffeehouse debate. They have the highest literacy rate in the country and each day read no fewer than 40 local newspapers concerned with matters such as radical politics, the state of the world's spice markets, and, cheered on by their readers, the incompetence of central government in Delhi. This, together with ferocious chili-spiked curries, is what Trivandrum is known for. But come the dog days of late May, another aspect begins to impinge on the national consciousness.